So my mom and I were really close, like maybe even a little codependent if I actually think about it. I was a teenager when I first became a mom, and it was really hard for me, but it was also really hard for my friends. I mean, my friends, they wanted to be there for me and they were loyal friends, but it was just hard for us to even know what to do with each other anymore since I had moved to kind of this different stage of my life. I had moved into this parenthood stage, and so it was hard for them to understand. And I didn't really have the freedom that my friends had at that point because I had my little baby Chase to take care of. So I don't really blame them, but it was really at this time in my life that my mom and I really super attached to each other. My mom and I became really close. She helped me with Chase. She taught me how to be a mom right there because I was living in her home 3 generations together. And then she watched him while I went to school and finished up my college degree. And then as I had more kids and kind of moved on, she continued to help me with them. And we shared so much of our life together, And for the next 20 years, we were together a lot of the time, multiple days a week. My mom and I, we lived about 2 miles from each other, and we regularly ate meals together. We had lunch or dinner all together, and we just hung out all the time. We were really, really close. So when my mom died in 2017, I never could have possibly imagined the loneliness that I would have felt at that time. The loneliness when I lost both my mom and my best friend and my sounding board and my partner in crime. And this loneliness that I felt after she died, it just seemed to like permeate all of my life. I'd be standing there in a room full of people, but I would find myself feeling completely alone. And I would be grieving so hard by the loss of my mom. I'd do weird things like pick up my phone to call her even though I knew she was gone, or I'd put her favorite Dijon mustard on my sandwich even though I don't really like it. The pain of loneliness that I felt after losing my mom, it wasn't just emotional, but it was actually physical. My body just ached and hurt. And friends, if you've been through grief, you know it is just the worst because it is so, so lonely. We often talk about how God is everywhere and in everything, but I think that we still sometimes wonder where God is in our lives. I mean, where is God in my loneliness or my struggles? Or on the other side, what does God see in me? This week on the Daily Dose, we're exploring what God sees when God sees us. Now, David in the Bible, he also struggled with deep, deep loneliness, with pain and disconnection. And at one point, David had to run away from all of his people because King Saul was out to kill him. David had lost his wife and his best friend and the company of the men that he was in charge of in the army, and he lost his reputation and his good name. And like me, David's grief led him to a place of despair and loneliness where he felt just completely isolated, disconnected, and alone. So what does David do with his loneliness? Well, David, he writes about it. Listen to his despair in Psalm 38. My wounds fester and are loathsome because of my sinful folly. I am bowed down and brought very low. All day long I go about mourning. My back is filled with searing pain, and there's no health in my body. I am feebly and utterly crushed. I groan in anguish of heart. All of my longings lie open before you, Lord, and my sighing is not hidden from you. My heart pounds, my strength fails, even the light has gone out of my eyes. My friends and companions avoid me because of my wounds, and my neighbors stay far, far away. Oh, David, man, that is some serious loneliness and grief. When I read this Psalm 38, I think if someone like King David, who is called a man after God's own heart and who ends up being the great-great-great-great-great-grandpa of Jesus, the author of the book of Psalms, I think that if David could feel this way, the way that I have felt, and if King David went through this, then that must mean that God is with me in my loneliness and experience too. And if God is with me in my loneliness and experience, then I'm not actually alone, am I? My friends, God keeps God's promises to be with you through all the things that life brings you. And God sees you in those painful moments through loneliness and grief and pain. And here's the thing, you don't have to do anything for that to be more true. It just is true. So when you feel alone, I want you to know that you are not. God sees you. The God of the universe sees you in that space and is with you. And if you need a reminder of that, that you are not alone in these feelings, just read the Psalms. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's my honor that you are here with us. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I want to invite you to share and subscribe. And if you're joining us on cable access, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you later.